I would like to welcome you all tonight, the candidates, the audience, and those viewing at a later time, to this forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Rochester. We'd also like to thank our generous partners in tonight's forum, the Rochester Post-Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, the Rochester Public Library, and RCTC for all of your help. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we never endorse or support political parties or candidates. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters of Rochester or any partner or sponsor of this forum. And the sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. It is our purpose in sponsoring this forum to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss face-to-face issues that are important to you. Tonight's questions have come from the League of Women Voters Rochester, the Post-Bulletin, the Chamber of Commerce, and members of our audience. As there never is enough time to cover all the issues in a limited time and setting such as this, please feel free to contact the candidates' campaign headquarters directly if your questions are not addressed tonight. And I'm sure each of the candidates will be happy to speak with you after the event as well. We'd like to thank all candidates for running for office, for offering to serve your community, and the enormous time, dedication, and commitment that running and serving demand. We encourage our members as individuals, as we encourage each of you, to get involved in your community and political party of your choice. All candidates who filed for office were invited to this forum. At least 2 candidates for each office, or any given office, must be present in order to hold a forum for that office. Tonight's forum will be in 2 segments, and each will last approximately 45 or 50 minutes. We'll take a short break between segments. Welcome to tonight's forum, which features the candidates from the school board, position 1. For the candidates that we are featuring in this seat are Richard Hines, Bill Moe, and Bobby Dallas. Each candidate will have 1 minute to offer an opening statement. The candidates will then respond in turn to questions provided by the League of Women Voters of Rochester, this evening's partners, and by the audience. Candidates will have 1 minute each to answer. The candidates will then have 1 minute each to make a closing statement. I would like to suggest to the candidates that you make your answers as succinct as possible. It isn't necessary to use the entire minute for your answer, but please finish your sentence when your time is up. We would like to cover as many questions as possible. Each candidate also has 3 30-second rebuttal cards. For the audience, they look like this. These can be used at any point after all the candidates have answered the question. Only 1 rebuttal card may be used per question. I'd like to remind the audience to remain quiet during the forum and turn off all electronic devices. The timekeeper tonight is League of Women Voters of Rochester, Julie Gilkinson. Also asking questions will be Matt Stoller from the Post-Bulletin and Dwayne Salt from the Chamber of Commerce. The candidates have drawn numbers to determine the order in which they will speak in their opening statement, and we will begin with Mr. Hines.
Hi, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Post-Bulletin, the Chamber of Commerce, and RCTC for allowing us this opportunity to speak. I grew up in North Dakota. We didn't have very much growing up, but we had a strong emphasis on education, and the community that I grew up in emphasized hard work and integrity as well. And due to that strong educational background, I today have a career, a great profession that allows me to both contribute to society as well as provide for my family. And I think the main reason why I'm running for the school board is that it provides me the opportunity to ensure that every student that comes to RPS has the opportunity that I did. The job that I have right now, I work with multi-million-dollar budgets from NIH, and in the same way that NIH trusts me to be a good steward of the tax dollar, so too I think that the taxpayer here in Rochester requires that of the board members to be good stewards. And so I think that we have a good district, and I think that we have the opportunity, truthfully, for this to be the best district in the country.
Thank you. Mr. Moe?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum tonight, along with their partners, the Post-Bulletin, the Chamber of Commerce, Rochester Public Library and the Rochester Community and Technical College. Most of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight and everyone who's watching this at a later date. I appreciate you taking the time to get educated on the issues involved in this election. The school board, while what they like to call a down ballot election, is just as important. These are the people who make important decisions about how we educate our children, and it is every bit as important as the higher races on the ballot. My name is Bill Moe, and I am married. I have 3 children, and that's part of why I'm running for office. A lot of people, when they have small children, mine are 10, 8, and 5, it's too hard. So I'll do it when I don't have kids. I'll do it before I have kids. I'll do it once the kids are out of the house. But this is a time when it's most important to be involved, because this is a time when I, as a customer, I have the best view of what's going on. Thank you.
Ms. Amos.
Good evening, and thank you to the Women's League of Voters for holding the forum. I've been a longtime resident of Rochester and have been married for the last 24 years. I have 2 kids, Cody and Kaylar, who both have graduated from Century High. I have worked for Ben Franklin for the last 12 years as a paraprofessional, and I've also been involved with SEMVA, which is an art gallery here in town, and been on their board and now serve on their gallery committee. I've also attended the last board meetings for the last 4 years and believe public education is our greatest asset. And as a board member, we can't look at the limits of what our board members can do, but we need to look at it as a stepping stone what can be done. The reality of our district is this. We're going to be in a shortfall in 3 years. We're looking to implement programming with costs that's been unaddressed, and we need to follow the lead of our superintendent and be more involved in our community and what's going on in our district. But I don't look at these as limitations. We need to look forward and truly advocate for our staff and students.
Thank you. Our first question tonight will be from the League of Women Voters. For the 2010 and 2011 school year, there were 314 children who met the definition of homeless in Olmsted County schools. In addition to 109 who were sheltered, there were 182 who were doubled up with friends or family, and 23 staying in a motel or a hotel. Of these 314 children identified as homeless in Olmsted County Public Schools last year, 8 are pre-kindergarten, 220 are in elementary schools, and 86 are in secondary schools. What can the schools and county do together to address the special needs of these children? We'll begin with Mr. Moe.
Well, first, one part of the school district's responsibility is to identify students who are at risk so that the county can help out with services. There are certainly limitations on what the school district can do as far as that goes with privacy issues, but I believe that in general the school district needs to seek out more public-private, maybe in this case public and public partnerships to get the most for our dollars. It's difficult. The school district can't do much as far as housing goes. The school district already provides breakfast and lunch for these individuals. The free and reduced lunch program that continues on into the summer months. So there's a lot that the school district is doing already to try to ensure that they get the best education possible, which is its mission. But certainly in cooperation with other public and private entities, there are probably other programs that can be put in place to assist.
Thank you. Mr. Hines? Oh, I'll remind all of you to speak directly into the mic.
So growing up, I actually started a nonprofit organization that helped at-risk and homeless. And I think the biggest challenge that we face there, and the same challenges that we face here in Rochester with this population, is really creating a sense of stability for the students. We really tended to notice that they had a very difficult time adjusting to it. They also have a very transient lifestyle oftentimes, so even within your district, they tend to want to move around from school to school, and so sometimes creating a place that they can get some routine is very important. I know that particularly within our district, for students in this situation, assisting with transportation and stuff like that is also a big thing that we do. But really, the best thing that we can do for these students is to create a safe and welcoming environment that they might not have, particularly when you're not exactly sure where your next meal is coming from, or where bed's going to be tonight. So really creating a real sense of stability and routine is the best thing we can do for these students.
Thank you, Ms. Gales.
I think that the school district's opportunity here is to identify them and then support academically. Oh, sorry.
Just a little bit closer.
To support them academically and to give them the support that they need during the school day. When they leave our school, that's it. That's when the county and the school then need to step in together and work together as a team to help that, not only that student, but that family then get on their feet and help them and assist them in what they need to do.
Thank you. Our next question will come from the post bulletin, and we'll begin with Ms. Gals.
Rochester School Board is considering a $7 million technology plan that would equip many students with an iPad. Opponents argue that it's a powerful tool that can increase student engagement. Critics counter that it's expensive boondoggle, and there's a lack of local data to support the concept. If you were a school board member, would you support the plan?
I support the plan, but I have a lot of questions when it comes to what is our continuing cost when it comes to the iPads. We have heard about the iPad implementation at Longfellow, and that is a first grade implementation that has happened. What happens when they get up in middle school? What happens when they get up in high school? What are we going to do with those iPads, and what will the cost be to the district? And what is the long-term goals that we have for these iPads? Those are questions that have not even been asked yet answered for the implementation. I support the technology in our schools. I don't necessarily right now support this plan as full.
Mr. Moore.
The original technology plan has been dramatically reduced. Initially, the plan that everyone's been hearing and talking about is a one-on-one technology plan, and that's been cut almost it's about a third of what it originally was. Personally, I'd like to see it a little bit smaller. I'd be more comfortable with that. I'd like to see a larger pilot initially, I guess is essentially what I would be looking for. However, right now the staff came back to the school board with exactly what they asked for. They asked them to come back with something that was revenue neutral. There's no tax increase involved in the current plan that they're involved in. The iPad portion, I believe, is something in the neighborhood of around $3 million of the total technology plan right now. And overall, with the other elements that are involved in this, there's no property tax increase involved in that, and that's what the school board asked them to do. That's what the staff came back with. At this point in time, based on that, I would have to support it at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Hines.
I think I would echo some of the same reservations that have sort of already been mentioned previously. That being said, I am actually in support of the plan as well. I think that one of the things that isn't talked about very much is the potential cost savings here in the long term. I think in the short term it's hard to articulate those potential savings, but certainly there's a movement toward tablet technology. And I look at every one of those computer labs sitting with huge PCs in it, and I think there's an extra classroom so that we don't have to build another school and we have a little more capacity. So I don't hear a lot of talk about that. Also, it costs about $1.97 a year to recharge an iPad, where these larger PCs are taking up lots of energy costs as well. And so I think there's some savings there. The only downside is both of those savings, the things I talk about when it comes to the classroom size and the energy savings, we really don't see until we have a full implementation of the program. So if we kind of phase it in, those cost savings won't be immediately apparent.
Thank you. Our next question will come from the Chamber of Commerce. We'll begin with Mr. Moore.
We know that more than 2/3 of the new jobs that will be created between now and 2018 are high-growth jobs that are in areas that will require nearly universal post-secondary education and job and skill growth that, to a large extent, may not even be understood yet. What types of strategies or approaches would you identify that would ensure that all students will understand education and job skill growth in relationship to their employment in the future?
Well, I think the key thing the district needs to look at right now is actually a little bit more diverse education. I think as far as educating our children towards a college-bound experience and trying to educate them on what direction they're going there, we're doing a pretty good job right now. The bigger issue right now is we aren't doing a very good job of educating the next generation of electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and these people who, these jobs can't be outsourced. These jobs are going to be here. They're going to be in our community, and we need to make sure that we're helping people who want to go in all directions. Certainly, college-bound individuals are important, but that's the focus of the district right now. We're doing, I think, a good job getting people to understand that direction. High school largely is beginning to mirror the college experience as far as how you select classes, not so much down a particular career path, but certainly with the partnerships we've got with RCTC, they're getting exposed to that wherever it's possible. So,
thank you. Ms. Gallus?
The key to the growth, and I believe you're talking about the Chamber STEM program. Am I on board with this? The STEM program that looks at putting the community and the district together as one and working and helping them move forward. I think the key as the district right now is seeing exactly where our kids are at. We need to know with our data and with our programming if we are moving our kids to the level that you think that the Chamber would be willing to support, like the STEM program, and moving those kids into those jobs that you would like to see them in. That is a specific group of kids that also are being talked about, and I'd like to see that opened up to the whole district and have all our kids being able to participate in that programming.
Thank you. Mr. Hines?
I think that Bill is kind of spot on here. And so I'm very involved in the STEM program too. I go up to the field house. I show kids how to insert advanced airways. I even make it on the front page of the Pulse Bulletin the day after the election. Thank you very much. And they love it. The kids really, they have a blast. They get excited and jazzed about the opportunities. And I think that is a great program. However, where we really drop the ball is when we kind of relegate shop class and VOTEC classes, and we say, oh yeah, if you don't do really good, you always have this other option. I don't know about you, but I was just in North Dakota, my home state, out near Williston, North Dakota. And if you're a welder with welding skill, you can make nearly 6 figures right now, okay? That's a lot of money. And I think that we've kind of said, oh yeah, if you do really poor academically, there's these other programs for you. But what we have to understand is that if you never go into a shop class, your chances of going to a VOTEC program are virtually nil, and we need to focus on that as well.
Thank you. And we haven't had any rebuttals so far, is that right? No needs for rebuttal. Okay, another question from the League of Women Voters, and the question will begin with Mr. Hines. What role do you believe the school board should have in selecting curriculum?
I'm a firm believer that the experts in the field are certainly the teachers and the cabinet members that have spent a profession in deciding what that curriculum should be, and I really prefer to leave that work to the experts. You know, I don't usually let people come in and run my ventilators and stuff like that in the hospital, and I think that they really probably have a good idea of what it needs to be. I think the role that we play is determining costs and budgeting associated with that curriculum, and how we can best provide the ability for them to accomplish their goals. But I think we'll leave that to the professionals.
Thank you. Ms. Gallus?
I think the role of the school board member when it comes to curriculum is understanding exactly what that curriculum is, how that's going to move our students forward, and the cost to the district for that. It is our job to understand the curriculum that will be in place in our district. That is part of the school board's job. It is also our job to understand how that will move our students forward, and the cost that it will be not only to our district, but what will the cost be to the staff that has to implement this program, and also to the community.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Well, the school board's job is to make sure that it's up to the staff to determine when a change should be made in the curriculum. It's the school board's job at that point to grill them on why does this change need to be made, what's wrong with our current curriculum, how is this better, are there any examples of districts that have made a change from our curriculum we're using to this other curriculum, and what kind of improvements have they seen. It's the school board's job to grill them, to make sure they've done their homework, to make sure that they've gotten answers and not just are buying into the latest flavor of the day. A lot of times there'll be something that'll come along that will seem like the latest and greatest, and while we've got 1 year of great results, sometimes you have to see what really happens down the road before you can buy into it. And the job of the school board is to make sure that they've got good information, they've asked the right questions, and that it's money being well spent.
Okay. Mr. Hines' rebuttal.
I would just, I'd like to echo some sentiment that Bobby had brought up too. And I just want to be clear that I don't think that it's the role of the board to be writing textbooks. However, one area where the board should consider stepping in is if there's notable gaps in the curricula altogether. For instance, if we notice there isn't a curriculum for advanced students, or there aren't programs for students that are struggling in certain areas, that is a place where the board needs to step up and identify a gap.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? All right, our next question will come from the Post Bulletin, and we'll begin with Ms. Gallus.
Nearly 1,500 students go to schools outside the Rochester district or go to charter schools. Parents choose not to send their children to Rochester public schools, depriving the district of millions of dollars. I've heard estimates of $8 million, $9 million. How would you arrest and reverse the flow and bring them back?
How would I reverse the flow of the students in our district?
That they go to schools outside of the district like Stewartville, Del Rio, and actually have them come back.
Well, I'd like to know why they're leaving our district. I know that our district at this point is working on asking the parents who have left our district. They're looking at why they're leaving our district. We need to ask the question, why are you leaving? And start addressing those type of issues. Our student numbers have stayed flat within the last about 10 years. We do have flux and flow, and that has a lot to do with the type of students that we have in this district. But we also need to find out why they are leaving. And we can't answer that question until we have some answers.
Right, Mr. Hines?
Well, I think that, we can intuitively imagine that parents are sending their kids elsewhere because there's something that they're getting elsewhere that they aren't getting here. So I think that the key to reversing, to arresting that trend and bringing students back to our district is to provide something that they can't get anywhere else. And we've kind of done this really well on some small scale projects. The Zebrafish project, I think, is one of those, a very unique program. You're not going to get that anywhere else. So I think some of those public-private partnerships that we have, we can create some really unique opportunities. I think the STEM program is another perfect example. I think some of the things that we are doing and can continue to do and maybe improve on in the health careers area is another thing that we can do to really create a unique opportunity that enriches students, that parents know there's nowhere else in the country that they're going to get this kind of opportunity, and we're not going to pass that up.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
This is something I've been talking about for quite some time now, and some of these things have begun to be discussed by the board, and part of the reason I'm running is that I think they need a stronger champion. We need to engage in things like all-day, everyday kindergarten, online education. These are areas where not only are we losing students because of them, but if we had them, we would actually attract more students. In addition, I think we should be looking into opportunities like interactive television education. That's something that's actually done at RCTC in Winona State. They participate in that, so we have some local expertise in that we could tap into. That's something where another public partnership. There's already a school in the area doing it. We can take advantage of their knowledge and begin doing that in our schools and actually have a product to sell to other school districts. All-day everyday kindergarten, I've personally talked to people who have left the district because they are able to get all-day everyday kindergarten in other districts. It's something that right now we can't do, but it's something we need to look at how we can implement it.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the chamber, and we'll begin with Mr. Mull.
To what degree are students in the district on track for college and career readiness, and how do you know? And really, a very important part of that question is to not emphasize the college ready part, but the career ready or the non-college, post-secondary type of transition students will make. But the issue is being college and career ready as they leave high school, which is clearly in question right now. And in what way do you know, and I know that that's kind of a predecessor question because you haven't been there yet. So do you know about that issue?
Well, there's a minute for that whole question. We have a large percentage of students who get to college and aren't ready for college, much less ready for a career. And to me, college readiness and career readiness are two different things, especially depending on what path we're talking about. I think that we need more, I guess I'll call it real world education in high school to prepare people better for both college and career. But if we're depending on the type of career we're talking about, the career readiness, a lot of that does actually happen in college. That's where you're building that base of knowledge that you're going to need to launch your career that requires a post-secondary education. There are other careers where when you leave high school, you need to be ready to get into a technical college. And again, that's a different path that we're not doing so well on right now. But the very complex issue.
Thank you, Mr. Hines.
Yeah, I think I know where this question is going, and so if I steer off, I apologize. You know, so not talking about college readiness, but talking about career readiness, particularly maybe even for those that choose not to choose the route of going to college right away or at all. There's many business owners. Terry Tronson is here in the audience, and I know that some of the things that they're looking for in employees are the basic elements of hard work. So timeliness, being honest, being dependable, showing up on time. And to the degree that that role of character building is what I would term it as, and what that role is within the district, I think it's actually really important. We used to do a lot of that character building through extracurriculars, but as we've cut back in extracurriculars, I think that we should consider how we integrate character building as well as being a good citizen into our curriculum. And so I think that those are the kinds of things that we have to do a better job at, and making sure that they understand that's going to be important for the future job.
Thank you. Ms. Gallus.
Well, we used to know if they were ready by some of our test scores coming out and our MCA scores, but that has all changed with the state. And according to the paper tonight, we don't even know the percentage of kids who are not even passing our math standards test. So we did know with test scores. We knew where we stood, where our kids stood when it came to Minnesota standards test. It's what we chose to do with that information to move our students forward. We know where we stand. It's what we're going to do with it. And those questions need to be answered.
Mr. Hines has a rebuttal.
Yeah. And so I'd like to kind of reiterate Bobby's point about using data to kind of figure out where things are at. You know, there's a real emphasis on testing, but I think, and even we've improved things about the way that we return results relatively quickly now because it's all computerized. Maybe one more possible potential future use for portable technology. In a nutshell, I'm trying to say the PC is dead, but the thing is, returning a raw score versus returning actionable information are two different things. And I don't think that we exactly are very good at returning stuff that we can say, we need to shift the focus for this particular student.
Ms. Gallus.
Though I agree with some what Mr. Hines says, I do believe that our raw scores tell us something. And I do believe that we can take that data and turn it and look at it in a lot of different ways and know exactly where our district stands, where our students stand, and what we need to work on.
Thank you. Our next question from the audience. and this will begin with Ms. Gallus. What is your opinion regarding the district's bullying policy? Does it need to be strengthened, revoked, or remain the same, and why?
I believe our bullying policy needs to be strengthened. We do have a program within the district right now that does address some of our bullying issues, but I don't think it's strong enough. I don't think it's tracked enough, and I think that our district needs to do a better job at looking at exactly what's going on in our schools and addressing those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Moe?
I think that a stronger policy is necessary. It's difficult. Bullying is like art. It's one of those things I can't describe it to you, but I know it when I see it. And that's one of the things that is hard about it is that you have to find where you draw that line. And I think it's important that we have those conversations. I think it's important that as a district we decide where that line is going to be drawn, and that there are real and serious consequences for bullying, and that we simply don't tolerate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hines.
I think the focus, I agree, we need stronger policies against bullying, they're hands down. I think that a lot of times these policies are looked at as strictly punitive to the person being bullied. But what I want folks to understand is our district grapples with some very tragic events in the area and figuring out how we deal with this problem. You have to understand that the benefit is not just of stronger bullying policies, it's not just to the person being bullied, but we talked about character building, right? And setting a standard saying this isn't acceptable. People that get into a habit of bullying other people have problems down the line when they start to go on to try to get employment and move on with other areas of their life. So remember, a strong bullying policy doesn't just help those that are bullied, it actually helps the bullies because it helps them get rid of some bad habits that are going to hurt them down the road.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? Our next question comes from the audience again. How has our district, and it will begin with Mr. Hines. How has our district been doing in efforts to close the achievement gap? What current efforts should be continued or discontinued? And what new initiatives should be brought forward?
I think that our district is starting to move in the right direction when it comes to looking at a more holistic approach to closing the achievement gap. Certainly our current superintendent is very involved and is visible at more than just large events. I think that we've really kind of come to terms with how we set up our plans and stuff like that to look at data and interpret things. We have a lot of distance to cover yet, though. But I think that we have shifted focus away from just looking at this as, oh, this is a minority issue, or this is strictly a socioeconomic issue, and we finally have come to terms with the fact that it's affecting students across the whole spectrum. I think that I know there's a lot of talk about data tonight, but I think that that's one of the areas where we don't do maybe the best job that we could in the way that we interpret our endpoints there.
Thank you. Ms. Gallus?
Can you repeat the last part after that question?
Yes. What current efforts should be continued as it concerns closing the achievement gap, discontinued, or what new initiative should be brought forward?
Well, closing the achievement gap, we need to look at exactly what students that achievement gap is affecting. The kids in our achievement gap, I don't believe are kids that people assume should be there. So in order for us to close that gap, I think we need to start looking at our programmings. We need to start looking at more data and using that in the best that we can use it.
Thank you. Mr. Moe?
As far as programs to be continued or discontinued, I think we need to work with staff on that, and I'll bring up data too. Why not? Everyone else is, and look at the data and see what we should have, at this point in the process. We should have data about what's working and what isn't, and we should be able to discontinue programs that are not working and continue and expand on programs that are. And if we don't have any that address a particular need, we need to look for places where they're having a similar problem in that area and find something that works. I think part of the problem is that we're trying to measure everyone by the same measuring stick, and there are always going to be people who are better at math than other people are. And I think there's always going to be something of a gap. We can close it. I don't think it's possible to eliminate it. And you reach a point of diminishing returns, and we're going to spend more money than the district can possibly raise to address the issue eventually.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? Our next audience question will first start with Ms. Gallus. This question concerns the board's primary responsibility. How do you feel about the district's new mission statement? What parts of it do you support? And or how would you improve it specifically?
Our new mission statement, which I do not know right off the top of my head because that is our new strategic plan that we are putting in place. And so I don't know how it would change it or how I'd even look at it.
What do you feel the board's primary responsibility is?
According to our strategic plan, if the board hasn't accepted it, so as soon as the board accepts as soon as the board accepts it, then I think the board needs to follow it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moe?
As Bobby said, I certainly can't quote it verbatim, but it's essentially the biggest portion of it involves student achievement. And again, to me, the goal of the board is not to make sure that every student reaches the same level, but to make sure that every student reaches the maximum of their own potential. And that's going to vary from student to student, and that's where we need to get away from a one-size-fits-all mentality and find solutions that suit the needs of the individual as opposed to a one-size-fits-all solution.
Thank you, Mr. Hines.
I'm glad that you brought up the new mission statement because I think one of the big things that I emphasize in my pamphlet that's available outside is the fact that we really need, as the board, with the new mission statement, the big thing is understanding that this means that we set the expectation for those students. And I look back and I say, what went right in my education? Was it the right textbook? Was it the right teacher, the right year? And I think one of the biggest things that made my educational experience so successful is that no matter if I call them, heaven forbid, I say the term good teacher or bad teacher, right? Every teacher that I came into contact with had high expectations, and those expectations were clear. And then the new mission statement really makes it clear that one of the jobs of the board is to make sure that people understand, that students understand, we have very high expectations of them.
Thank you. Rebuttals? Our next question concerns funding from the legislature. What will you do to work on increasing per pupil funding for the Rochester School District? Are there other changes that you will work on through the legislature? And we'll begin with Mr. Hines.
Yes, the answer is an emphatic yes. There is major things that we changed. You know, to be honest with you, I mean, if we're being really truthful to the taxpayer, I don't know that the per pupil reimbursement amount is the biggest problem. The biggest problem that we face in our district, remember, we have a budget of $225 million. If you can't run a district on $225 million, you know, there's something wrong with you. But what people don't understand, what the public doesn't understand, is that the way that we have to spend that money is absurd. The allocations from the state and the way that they require us, that somebody at the state level who has created a fixed percentage knows better than the city with the largest per capita patent ratio in the world on how to run their district. They know better? I don't think so. And so I think the biggest thing that we've already started doing, our superintendent has really taken a lead in this and getting other school districts around our region, is to say to the state, enough's enough, it's time for more local control. we need to be able to control those allocations much more. We've made steps in the right direction to get more flexibility, but we need more control.
Thank you, Mr. Moe.
While certainly our district does have a large budget, when you compare it to inflation over the last 10 years, we actually have less money to work with comparatively. Increases from the state have not kept pace, and so this is part of why we've seen the cycle year after year of cuts and cuts, and very few years where we break even or have slight surpluses. I think ultimately what we need to do is make the formula a little more fair. There are some districts that get nearly double the per pupil funding that Rochester gets because of the formula is so complex and archaic. Maybe it is beyond them. They don't want to tackle it because it's too big and too complicated, and there are too many special interests involved. But ultimately, there needs to be more fairness in funding formula, and the thing I always get back to is that Rochester sends more money to the capital than we get back every year, and that's the greatest unfairness.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
I'm going to agree with Richard over there that our funding model is a little crazy, and there is allocated funds for certain things. I'm going to take it one step further, and the thing that I think we can do as a board is take what the superintendent has done. The superintendent has gotten together with other superintendents and has gone to the state legislatures and had talked to them about funding education. And I would like to see board members do that and get together with other board members and go up to the state and let's have some honest conversations about funding and what we can do and how we can turn this funding around and bring our funding back to our district.
Thank you. Our next question has to do, oh, I'm sorry, rebuttal. Third part.
So I agree with quite a bit that Bill says, and certainly I think if the state of Minnesota would love to cut us a bigger check, I would gladly accept it. I don't think that that's likely, and I just want to be clear. Saying that it's slightly screwed up was my mistake. That's a huge understatement. Any district in which we have money to build a new gymnasium, but we have to let go of 30 or 40 teachers in that same year, that's ridiculous. And I think the fact that we need more translators, but we have money allocated into other areas, that doesn't meet the civil rights of our students here. They have a right to a good education.
Any other rebuttal? Our next question has to do with your vision of the school district. As Rochester continues to grow, what is your vision to keep Rochester schools in the forefront of education? We'll begin with Mr. Moe.
Well, we need to look at ways, as I said previously, that we can not only attract more students, but ways in which we can improve education. And all-day everyday kindergarten is one of those. If we can identify children who are struggling earlier on, we can not end up dumping them into first grade not prepared for it. Kindergarten teachers have a little over 2.5 hours a day with their students, and kindergarten classes are growing every year. My oldest daughter had at least 16 children in her kindergarten class. My middle daughter had 22, and I hesitate to think what my youngest daughter is going to have when she starts kindergarten next year. It's harder and harder for them to identify and give the time necessary to improve, to get those children ready for first grade, which ends up being almost what the kindergarten teacher's job is to prepare them for first grade. And obviously that's a portion of it, but the children who are ready or are ahead of the curve, they don't end up getting their maximum potential out of them because so much time is spent on the children who come in not ready for kindergarten.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
My vision for the district is I would like to see us as a board, us as cabinets, us as a superintendent, set that example for our students to start moving our students forward. I know that we could be one of the best school districts in this state. I know we can be. We need to set that example first. We need to move forward. We have to start taking, as members of the school board and as the cabinet, taking those first steps to show our students that yes, we are willing to take those steps. You're going to be willing to take those steps and so they start working just as hard as we do.
Thank you. Mr. Hines?
Well, I do certainly believe we are actually one of the best districts in the state. And I guess my vision for our district is that we'd be one of the best districts in the country. And I think that's actually achievable. Everybody goes, oh boy, the eye's rolling already. You know, when we walk through the doors of our medical center, we don't say, nah, I think we can be the best in the state. We say, I think we can be the best in the world. And really, we need to carry over that same attitude for our students because, you know, we want these students to take the path less chosen. So maybe that doesn't even mean for some students college. Maybe they take a different route. But we want them to get into those unique, niche situations where suddenly you have somebody like the NIH saying, okay, here's $6.5 million, you know, cure something with aspirin, okay? That's the kind of situation that we want to create for our students. So my vision is that we create a district that is the best in the country. And we truly have the resources here to do it. It's not impossible. We've got IBM, we've got Mayo Clinic, we have so many good things going for us. And we're small enough where we can make that happen. That's my vision.
Thank you. We have a rebuttal? Mr. Moe?
Just one other thing I'd like to add is that there are plenty of other programs we have that we could be expanding if we had the additional students. And I mentioned earlier, interactive television is one of the ways in which we can do that. We could actually sell classes to other districts. We could expand on programs that are smaller in our district that other districts cannot offer at all. One example being the Chinese language program. We could expand that. We can make that larger. We can actually bring income into the district while better educating our students.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? I'm going to try to squeeze one more question in before your closing statements. This is on the school board's knowledge of the students. As a board member, how would you know if students are learning to think, learning to speak, and learning to write? And we're going to begin with Mr. Moe.
Well, I certainly plan on being out in the schools, out in the district, talking to students, talking to teachers. I want to know what's going on. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be involved, and I guess that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Mr. Hines.
I think as a school board member, you become involved with many different organizations. For instance, the student school board and so forth, and they give you a nice indication of where students are in those areas, in addition to other information that we receive, which are the test scores, the testimonials from other teachers, from parents, and then again, as Bill's already mentioned, going into the schools and actually kind of seeing it firsthand. I mean, it's okay to have a little bit of a hands-on approach in order to get a good picture, a global picture of what's going on in the district, and that's really nothing to be ashamed of. There's a difference between doing that and being a micromanager. I know probably every board member has to kind of walk that line between micromanaging and trying to help inform their global view. But I think that those are really the things that you look for. And parents will let you know, and so will teachers, if you're willing to listen. The last bullet point on my pamphlet, just outside the door.
Thank you. Ms. Gallus?
I'm gonna agree with Richard, and I believe that you need to be out in the school district, out in the schools, and know what's going on. I also believe that I think that open communication between staff and the school board needs to happen in order for us to truly know what's going on. Those lines of communication need to be open. They need, the staff needs to know that they can come to a school board member and know that they can tell us, and we will at least look into it or move it into the right direction. We also know by the curriculum that we have in place, with the data that does come back, how our students are faring and if they are learning the core that they need to learn. So I believe that's what we need to do as school board members.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? Well, that concludes the question portion of our first forum, and we will now hear closing statements from each candidates. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to speak, and Ms. Gallus will go first, Mr. Hines second, and Mr. Knoll third.
As a school board member, I believe the need for proactive work, not reactive, needs to happen. To be a proactive board member, understanding of the programming that will be implemented in our district is a must. We need to start understanding what we are implementing and asking the tough questions in order for our students and district to move forward. We need to know and understand our policies in our schools in order to support the students and staff. We need a clear understanding of our state policies in education and how that affects the district, and start working in tandem with the superintendent to make things happen at a community and state level in order for education in Rochester to be more successful. These types of proactive actions is what's needed for true change to happen. The time to sit back is not now. We as board members need to stand up, look forward, and truly advocate for our students and staff. I believe that education is our greatest asset, and as a board member, I take that very seriously. We have a good district with the potential to be great. I'll ask the tough questions, I'm prepared to do the tough work, and I will advocate for our district. And with your vote, I know we can move the district forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hines.
As a school board member, I certainly think that I'll be able to help focus on collaboration. I'm very solution oriented, it's in the nature of my job. But I think that I'm also a good financial steward. And I think that those things are important, because certainly if we look at the vitality of the district moving forward, you have to be on a solid financial ground. I think to sum it up, in a way I think that Bill would probably agree with me, it's a lot like being a mechanic on an airplane, right? We all are up here for the right reasons. No mechanic checks out an airplane and says, boy, I hope this airplane crashes, okay? They all look over that airplane pretty good because they want to make sure that it goes well. But now imagine that you know that your family may be getting onto that. And I think Bill and I are both in a situation where we're setting up families here. You better believe that we're going to check that airplane over and over and over and double check our systems and do a really good job. And I think that that's what you can expect if you vote for me. You get a good mechanic.
Thank you. Mr. Long?
I guess I'll disagree slightly in that I'm always thinking that it's somebody's family involved. So and that to me is part of this with the school district, is that some of the things I'm advocating for are of no use to my family personally. I have kids that who are going to be in the school district, who are in the school district. All day, every day kindergarten, I've talked about a couple times. My youngest starts kindergarten this fall. I'm never going to have any use for all day, every day kindergarten. It's the right thing to do. It's right for our district. That's what my focus is. What's the best thing for our district? What's the best thing for everyone coming into our district? And that's what my focus will be, is looking for new ideas. How can we better educate our children? To paraphrase, it's been said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We've done that an awful lot, and we need new ideas. We need to try different things, and that's what I'll bring.
Thank you, candidate.